I'm not your enemy. Then why the net, Batman? I'm not your enemy. Then why the net, Batman?
Rooftop of Hell's Kitchen, 2 a.m. Light rain smears the yellowish lights of the street lamps down below. Streams of water running in channels along the edges of the concrete. The protagonist of our story is standing on a rooftop, gazing down at the narrow street below. Network for trafficking weapons, extending from Gotham to New York, affiliated with Kingpin, and now showing early indications of a change of leadership within the organization, with Hell's Kitchen serving as the transportation hub. He was not invited here, nevertheless. Batman does not need an invitation anywhere. Suddenly he perceives, or rather senses, that someone is standing right behind him. Such occurrences are extremely rare, almost unprecedented, especially during night patrol duties. The Dark Knight turns around sharply. A red and black clad figure that landed without making the slightest noise watches Batman with an unreadable face beneath the horned mask. It is Matt Murdock, better known as Daredevil, has been tracking our hero ever since he first appeared on a rooftop. The vigilante from Hell's Kitchen is not pleased with an intruder that entered his jurisdiction without prior notification. Everyone knows the legendary Batman as the world's best detective, capable of defeating such dangerous adversaries as Bane, the Joker, and even Superman with his preparation, intelligence, and wit. Tonight, however, he must face another challenge. Daredevil, the man who is not afraid of anything. The blind superhero with extremely enhanced radar sense, super reflexes, and unparalleled martial arts skills, trained by some of the world's best masters of combat, such as Stick, the master of the chaste. In this scenario, it's not about who will win, but whether or not Batman's technological arsenal and intellect will be sufficient to survive, or whether he has to make a deal head, rather not. Phase 1. First encounter. Rooftop, limited field. Ventilation pipes and water tanks can serve as a cover. Our protagonist has the high ground. Daredevil does not give a damn about elevation, however. Batman throws the first batarang simply to test whether or not this fellow would react accordingly. As expected, he dodges this projectile. But this was not mere reflex. He knew in advance that the vigilante would throw something at him the moment he lifted his arm, as proven by Batman's radar sense. The caped crusader switches to melee combat mode, a swipe with cape to obstruct vision. Ineffective. As said previously, Daredevil does not need his sight at all, followed by the attack on Batman's head with an elbow strike, as well as a kick to his legs. He deflects the first blow with a slight move of his wrist, and avoids the second by sidestepping Batman's strike. Already predicting that he was about to launch an attack, our hero feels like he is fighting a man that knows his next moves. Daredevil retaliates with twin billy clubs, aiming at the joint of Batman's knees, but not to damage them, rather, to test the durability of his armor. Then, he attacks the other side of Batman's body, aiming specifically at his right wrist to check the position of his batarangs. However, Batman is not helpless in combat. He triggers his high-frequency sonic disruptor, throws a grappling hook at the nearby chimney, and in less than 2 seconds lifts himself up. On the ground below, Daredevil stops, looks up and finds Batman in his precise position despite not possessing any means of sight. His radar sense is unaffected by the sonic disruptor. This is duly noted in Batman's memory. Encounter verdict: survival on Tier B level. With the help of technological advancements and quick thinking, our protagonist managed to escape. Nevertheless, he is facing his biggest challenge since Lady Shiva, in the form of a fighter who knows everything about the next attack, even before he launches it. Phase 2. Information war and sensory manipulation. Warehouse district by the port. 1 hour later. This time Batman picked the location that should theoretically disrupt the scent of Daredevil. The chemical smells of the containers on the dock proved that only half of his theory was right. The caped crusader launched 3 random sound drones generating false heartbeat signatures over an area of 20 meters. The main goal of Batman: to overwhelm the superhero's radar sense with various sounds, thus confusing him as to whether he is facing the real opponent or just the phantom created by the drones. It works for 7 seconds until Daredevil stops in the middle of a warehouse, listens carefully, and then starts analyzing and nullifying the information generated. Its simple false heartbeats do not breathe, and they certainly cannot generate the sound produced by friction of his shoes against concrete floor. Within 15 seconds, Daredevil successfully found the exact position of Batman's hiding place. This was predicted by Batman. He wasn't even in the drone's locations. He was up on the steel beam, observing how Daredevil analyzes the data to find Batman's exact position. This information is invaluable for Batman's purposes. Batman's evaluation based on the 15 seconds observation of Daredevil's actions. First thing that is worth mentioning is that the hero prioritized sound over smell in a multi-layered environment, scanning it radially from his position with an average time of 2.3 seconds between each scan. That leaves a blind spot behind him and on the left side each time Daredevil performs this scan. Knowing this, Batman tries his luck with this blind spot. He climbs down from the beam and strikes from precisely this position. Nevertheless, Daredevil immediately detects Batman, blocking his attack at the very last possible second. There are no blind spots in radar sense, as it turned out later. This whole action taken by Daredevil was merely to provoke Batman, to study the latter's actions, and to see how his radar sense would behave under such conditions. Encounter verdict: survival on Tier C level. Information warfare failed in face of a smarter opponent. Batman withdrew, having learned much from this experience. This encounter made the Caped Crusader understand that Daredevil possesses not only superhuman senses, but also great strategic thinking. Phase 3. Fighting on close quarters. Technique. This time, the basement of an abandoned church serves as the site for their fight. Without saying a single word, just with the help of their actions, they came to a conclusion that the issue needed to be clarified once and for all. With no technology and tricks, Batman realized that he was inferior in terms of sensory capabilities, so he had to rely solely on his superior physical strength. He extended the reach of his grapple arm by 8 inches to increase the safety zone. The combat tactic was simple: maintain medium distance from Daredevil, preventing him from entering his grapple range to use his throwing and judo skills to the fullest extent. It worked for 2 minutes. During these 2 minutes, Batman succeeded in landing 3 powerful hits on his enemy. However, Daredevil managed to recover quickly and remained immobile in the distance after each blow, continuing to breathe calmly and steadily. Then, Daredevil decided to switch his approach. Now, he doesn't try to shorten distance between them, but instead attacks the joints in Batman's armor, wrists, elbows, shoulders, searching for a mechanical weakness that exists in every piece of equipment. Twin billy clubs were moving so fast and hitting so hard, Batman understood that Daredevil spent his whole life training compensatory senses, making them an inseparable part of his perception, giving him super reflexes. Batman receives a blow to his right wrist that is not serious enough to injure him. Nonetheless, it was enough to understand that Daredevil tries to break down the armor bit by bit with his superior technique, as Batman could not use his gadgets without breaking his grip on his weapon. Batman tries his best to create a diversion and buys himself 3 seconds with Smoke Bomb before firing a net batarang at his opponent. Encounter verdict: survival on Tier C level. With just his technique, Batman barely succeeds in avoiding defeat. In a prolonged struggle without assistance of technology and gadgets, he would eventually lose as Daredevil has superhuman reflexes and radar sense to exploit every possible weakness of Batman's armor. Phase 4. Final gamble. Intelligence versus senses. This time, an abandoned water tower rooftop becomes the arena for their fight. The reason is purely practical in this case, however. Throughout the 3 phases above, Batman gathered quite a bunch of data. Daredevil processed information in the following priority list: sounds, vibrations, temperature, smells. As we've learned previously, radar sense emits and receives ultrasonic waves similar to the ones bats use to navigate through surroundings. Therefore, this system also has some physical limitations. In order to use them in his favor, Batman generates localized EMP that cuts off all electric power in the surrounding environment, thus eliminating all artificial sound sources in a matter of few milliseconds. After this, he activates the full insulation of armor's surface, cooling its temperature down to the ambient levels. At the same time, Batman stops any movements, remaining motionless for 60 seconds. Daredevil enters the arena and stops, scanning it several times. He is looking for Batman, yet there are no heat signatures present except for his own heat signature, heartbeat, but no movement vibrations and shoe friction on the floor. All this because Batman laid a rubber mat on the roof and stopped his motions completely. It took 4 seconds for Daredevil to find Batman. In turn, Batman throws net batarang at him that wraps around the hero's body. This is not a permanent measure, though, as Batman uses this 3 seconds of distraction to activate the smokescreen and place his hand on Daredevil's shoulder. "I am not hostile towards you. I just want to pass through your jurisdiction." Daredevil gets freed from the net in less than 2 seconds, straightening up and answering, "Next time. Knock. Encounter verdict. Tier survival." Finally, a result that does not require Batman to retreat. Conclusion: 4 stages of confrontation and 1 sleepless night passed. But the winner is yet to be determined. The rating goes as follows: Phase 1, Tier B, Phase 2, Tier C, Phase 3, Tier C, Phase 4, Tier A. Both heroes are ideal non-superpowered warriors, albeit Batman slightly more than Daredevil. The latter, however, has a distinctive feature among other superheroes that cannot be overlooked. His compensatory senses do not represent a conventional superhuman power. This ability has developed due to complete reconstruction of his whole life after losing sight. That is why he cannot be confused by any trickery whatsoever. Daredevil cannot be deceived by darkness, as well as by various technological methods to create visual illusions and distract him. Lastly, his fighting style taught by Stick and the chase takes into consideration that his opponent might be stronger and faster than he is. Is there any chance Batman will be able to survive against this man? Yes, he will survive, not defeating him in combat, but being intelligent enough to realize that this is the battle that doesn't necessarily require the fight itself.